P. My name is Eugene. I'm barely 18 years old. I'm a brunette with a short haircut, 185 tall athletic build. I want to tell you a story. One day I went with my mom to my uncle's birthday party. He is my mom's cousin. My dad had his own business, and he often went on business trips and could not go with us then. The birthday party went great, saw a lot of relatives. Mom invited everyone to visit us. The thing is that we live on the outskirts of the city, and behind it begins the forest. This year a lot of mushrooms and berries. It's already been a week since my birthday. At the birthday party I found out Aunt Gabriela and her husband are coming to visit us. Aunt Gabriela was my maternal uncle's cousin, and to us she was just an acquaintance or a distant relative. In general, we were close to each other. I noticed Aunt Gabriela at the birthday party. She works as a nurse. Medium height, bright brunette, shoulder-length hair. At the time, she was wearing a dress with a deep neckline and her breasts were showing. Her physique was a little overweight, but moderately so. She was 39 years old and her husband was 45. His name was Bob. He was of average height, a little gray hair. I didn't like the fact that he was always complimenting himself, was a tailgater. They arrived Thursday night and were going to stay until Monday. Our house is big for 4 bedrooms, plus living room, kitchen, bath. One situation changed everything. One late evening I couldn't sleep and went to the bathroom. As I was returning to my bedroom, I heard rustling and laughter in the bedroom where Aunt Gabriela and her husband were. I got curious. I opened the door and froze. The blanket was lying on the floor. Uncle Bob and Aunt Gabriela were doing the same thing. My buddy instantly jumped up and I decided to watch to the end. To my surprise, things were sluggish in bed with them. Aunt Gabriela was trying hard and Uncle Bob was inactive. And then I realized Uncle Bob barely had a boner. If I were in his shoes, I'd be a good sport about it, I thought to myself. Eventually, Aunt Gabriela's efforts came to fruition. "Do you want more?" whispered Aunt Gabriela to her husband. "No, let's go to bed." I quietly went back to my room. From that moment on, I began to dream of Aunt Gabriela as a woman and thought a lot about how to lure her into bed. But my husband or my mother was always with her. Aunt Gabriela was going to the woods for mushrooms. She loved nature. My mom was cooking in the kitchen. Uncle Bob was too lazy to go anywhere. I imposed myself on her. I was well-oriented in the woods, and this was the last chance we would be alone there. I put the contraceptives in my pocket and followed her. We entered the woods and walked leisurely. She was wearing a t-shirt, athletic pants. I knew where the old forester's house was in the woods. There's a makeshift bed, a table, and a stove, and on the pretext that I knew a good mushroom meadow, I took her there. Aunt Gabriela didn't want to go at first. It wasn't close and she didn't know the way there, but a little of my persistence and she agreed. After half an hour we were almost there. The house showed up. I began to worry. I felt my heart beating hard in my chest. I realized that everything would be decided now, so I decided to offer to come in for a rest. Aunt Gabriela replied that she wasn't tired yet. Then I lied, saying that there were many animal skins in the house and there was something to see. Aunt Gabriela agreed to come in, and I opened the door and let her in. She walked into the house and said, "What is there to look at? Why did we come here?" I walked up behind her, wrapped my arms around her and pulled her against me. With my right hand I held her, and with my left I reached under her t-shirt. "What are you doing? Are you even normal?" Aunt Gabriela started crying out, and I silently began to kiss her neck. It was uncomfortable, but I tried my best. I thought that she began to like it. I relaxed my hands, and then Aunt Gabriela jerked forward and broke free. She turned and began to scold me. What you allow yourself? I'll tell your mother everything, quickly come back." She was going to leave the house, but remembered without me the way back she will not find it. I began to persuade Aunt Gabriela, "But you also want it. Please about it, no one will know." I pulled down my shorts with underpants, and outside fell out my standing buddy of decent size. Aunt Gabriela was surprised. She didn't expect that. Compared to her husband, mine was bigger by almost half. "What makes you think I want one? I have a husband. I saw you and your husband at night, so I walked over to her, my buddy resting on her navel. I started kissing her lips and neck. After a couple minutes, Aunt Gabriela started reciprocating my caresses. "You're a sly one," she said with a smile. I started to pull off her t-shirt, but she interrupted me and said, "Take off your clothes." And she began to take off her clothes, and in a minute we were already naked. A magical picture opened before me. I bobbed her on the bed. She obediently obeyed all my actions. I possessed my aunt. Finally, my fantasies came true. When we were done, she confessed that her husband had never given her such pleasure. She made me promise not to let anyone know what had happened. After a little rest, we packed up and went home.